Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to echo the words of the Prime Minister concerning the 36 who died and the 100 injured in the vile terrorist attack at Ataturk Airport, and I'm sure that our consular services will be doing everything they can to assist those that have been affected. I'd also like to thank him for referring to the memorial for the Somme on Friday, and I look forward to being with him there at the memorial service of those who died in that dreadful battle. I think, Mr. Speaker, it would also be appropriate if we paid tribute to Lord Patrick Mayhew, who died last weekend. As Northern Ireland Secretary, he was the driving force behind the Downing Street Declaration in 1993 that did lead to the first ceasefire. And I think the relative peace we have now in Northern Ireland is in part thanks to him and, of course, his successor, Mo Mowlam, for all that she achieved. Mr. Speaker, what people in the country are worried about is the extra insecurity to their living standards, jobs, wages and pensions following the EU referendum. In recent days, we've heard uncertain words about the future of some of the major companies in Britain, like Siemens, which has been here for a very long time. What meetings has the Chancellor had with major companies, Siemens, Visa, Vodafone and others, to try to stabilise the situation?
Well, first of all, he's absolutely right to mention Patrick Mayhew. He did play a huge role in the delivery of the peace process. He was also a brilliant Attorney General and someone who I think exuded a belief in public service and the national interest and was a kind and goodly man. And I was very sad to hear of his passing. I sent a message to him via his wife shortly before he died, and I know there are many people in this House who want to send their good wishes to his family. The Leader of the Opposition rightly asked what conversations we're having with business and also what preparation we're making to deal with the economic challenges we face. I would say, look, we are in a strong position to meet these challenges because we've paid down so much of our deficit, we've had strong growth and job creation, but I don't belittle at all the consequences will be difficult. There are going to be some very choppy waters ahead. I don't resile from any of the warnings I made during the referendum campaign, but we've got to find the best way through this. Now, one of the things we must do is talk with businesses and reassure them about the stability there is today and the strength of the British economy. The Business Secretary has met with a whole range of businesses already. Tomorrow I have the meeting of my business advisory group, and I'm inviting other companies to that, including Siemens, who play a huge role in the British economy. And what we need to talk about is the reassurances about stability we can give now, the fact that our circumstances don't change until we leave the European Union, and then I want to hear from them as we draw up the possible blueprints for Britain's future position with Europe about what they think would be the right answer.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The credit rating agencies have cut the UK credit rating down to AA from AA+. The Chancellor pledged to keep a AAA rating. What estimate has the government made of the cost to the Exchequer of this downgrade in terms of borrowing costs and of the risks to pension funds?
Well, the Leader of the Opposition is absolutely right that the credit ratings by one agency has been taken down by several points, and another has put us on watch. The answer to his question directly is the cost to the Exchequer and to the taxpayer will depend on what happened to the interest rates in the market at which Britain can borrow, and he's absolutely right to draw attention to that. Look, as I said, they're definite, and Mario Draghi, the head of the ECB, confirmed this last night. All of the warnings were that if we voted to leave the EU, there would be difficulties in terms of our own economy and growth rates and instability in markets. We're seeing those things. We're well prepared for them in terms of the reaction of the Bank of England and the Treasury. But there's no doubt in my mind these are going to be difficult economic times. What we must do is make sure we maintain our strong economy so we can cope with them. But we shouldn't belittle these challenges. They're going to be difficult and we're going to have to meet them.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everyone across this House should be concerned that the indications from business and investors are they see the UK as less attractive, thus putting current and future jobs at risk. In these circumstances, will the Prime Minister consider suspending the Chancellor's fiscal rule, which is in effect preventing investment from taking place?
I don't believe that would be the right approach. I think, look, what business needs to hear, what consumers and investors and people concerned about our economy want to hear is that we have taken huge steps over the last 6 years to get the budget deficit down, to make the British economy more competitive, to make it an attractive destination for investment. They want those things to continue. And of course, if we do see economic difficulties, one of the ways we have to react to that is to make sure that our public finances and our economy remain strong. We shouldn't have taken all the steps of the last 6 years to get the deficit down in order to see us get onto a more difficult path. So I don't think it would be right to suspend fiscal rules. As I say, there are 3 phases to this. The first is the volatility we see, which the Bank of England and the Treasury must cope with. The second is the uncertainty about Britain's future status, which we need to bring to an end as fast as possible by examining the alternative models and then my successors choosing which one we should go for. And then we need to bear in mind the long-term damage to the British economy is based on how good our trading relationship will be with the European Union. Now, for my part, I think we want the closest possible relationship in terms of trading with the European Union, and that's something that can be discussed and debated in this House as well as by the next government.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, sadly, there has been more evidence that racist incidents are increasing. Evidence collated by monitoring groups shows that in the last 3 or 4 days alone, attacks and abuse from Stoke to Stockton, from Dorset to the Clyde. Can I ask the Prime Minister what monitoring systems he and the Home Secretary have put in place, what reports he's received from the police, and what extra resources are going to communities that have been targeted in these vile racist attacks that are taking place?
Well, first, let me agree with the right honourable gentleman. These attacks are appalling and they need to stop, and it's right that everyone in this House and everyone on all sides of the referendum debate utterly condemns them. That is not what we do in Britain. Let me say that I reassured Prime Ministers countries such as Romania and Poland and the Czech Republic who were concerned about this issue at the meeting that we had last night. So we do monitor these attacks and the Home Secretary gets regular reports, but I can tell the House that we will be publishing a new action plan on tackling hate crime shortly to step up our response. We want new steps to boost reporting of hate crime and supporting victims, new CPS guidance to prosecutors on racially aggravated crime, a new fund for protective security measures at potentially vulnerable institutions, and additional funding to community organisations so they can tackle hate crime. Whatever we can do, we will do to drive these appalling hate crimes out of our country.
Jeremy Corbyn.
I thank the Prime Minister for that answer. Last Thursday, Mr. Speaker, was a rejection of the status quo, a status quo that clearly isn't delivering. There are now 13.5 million people living in poverty in Britain, up 300,000 in the last year. 4.5 million people in England and Wales alone are in insecure work, and 2/3 of children in poverty are living in households where at least one adult is in work. The Prime Minister has 2 months left. Will he leave a one-nation legacy? And will that one nation legacy be the scrapping of the bedroom tax, the banning of 0 hours contracts and cancelling of the cuts to universal credit?
Where I would agree with the right honourable gentleman is, of course, we need to do more to tackle poverty, we need to do more to spread wealth and opportunity. But to try and pretend that last Thursday's vote was a result of the state of the British economy is complete nonsense. The British economy is incomparably stronger than it was 6 years ago. We all have to reflect on our role in the referendum campaign. I know the honourable gentleman says he put his back into it. All I'd say is I'd hate to see him when he's not trying.
Mr. Speaker, government figures released yesterday show the number of children living in poverty has jumped by 200,000 in a year, to a total now, a disgraceful total, of 3.9 million children in this country living in poverty. Does he not think he should at the very least apologise to them and the parents that have been failed by his government, and do something about it so that we do reduce the levels of child poverty in this country?
Well, if he wants to deal with the figures, let me give them to him. Income and inequality has gone down. Average incomes have grown at their fastest rate since 2001. He asks about poverty. There are 300,000 fewer people in relative poverty since 2010. 500,000 fewer people in absolute poverty since 2010. Look, if he's looking for excuses about why the side he and I were on about the referendum, frankly, he should look somewhere else. And I have to say to the honourable gentleman, he talks about job insecurity and my 2 months to go. It might be in my party's interest for him to sit there. It's not in the national interest. And I would say, for heaven's sake, man, go.